started. I did that first talk and threw me a little blazer on and running around screaming, didn't know what I was doing.
This is Sheila's Take, a podcast where you can hear my take on everything: love, hate, relationships, family, and today's issues with a godly perspective. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to Sheila's Take, where I bring you insightful conversations with inspiring individuals making a difference in the world. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to have Ahmard Vital joining us as a guest. Ahmard is a motivational consultant, international speaker, and best-selling author who has empowered people globally with his inspirational guidance and development strategies. With a background in studying the performance habits of high-achieving athletes, Ahmard has developed programs that have benefited individuals, professionals, companies, and organizations around the world. His book, Awaken the Baller Within, quickly earned the reputation of being the athlete's life manual and has been widely taught in colleges, athletic departments, and sports camps. As a mental performance coach, Ahmard has played a pivotal role in securing over $6 million in scholarship funding for athletes at various levels, including the highly competitive Division I and the National Football League. His expertise in motivating individuals to recognize their strengths and tap into their hidden potential has helped countless people achieve personal happiness and success like never before. But beyond his coaching and speaking engagements, Ahmard is a dedicated humanitarian and teen ministry leader, inspiring young minds to dream big and overcome their challenges. When he's not traveling the world, sharing his wisdom and writing books, you'll find him teaching cycling classes and promoting physical fitness in his community. So let's get ready to be inspired and empowered as we welcome Ahmard Vital to Sheila's Take. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheila, for having me on.
Thank you. How are you?
I am well. And yourself?
I am good. I am blessed. So let me just get this out of the way right now. But can you tell me a little bit about your journey from studying the performance habits of athletes? Exactly. First of all, what is that? And how did you get from doing that to becoming a motivational consultant and international speaker?
Well, and how long do we have? I'm just joking. But so I've been a sports writer my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sports writing. I've been writing for newspapers since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So playing sports and covering sports has always been my thing. And so all throughout my life, I've been majoring in journalism in school. I learned photography in school. I came out of college and went right into the writing world. I worked for the largest community newspaper chain in the state of Texas, covering sports and news for two different Northwest Houston areas. And so during that time, I was very, very intrigued by covering college football recruiting. And I tried to get in and I was like, look, man, I found somebody who was doing it. And I said, look, you tell me what it takes to get in here and I want to do it. And so I jumped into that world pretty quickly. I was kind of double dipping and, working for the newspaper, working for that site as well. And then next thing you know, I jumped into doing some marketing from a job standpoint, but my secondary job was doing college football recruiting analyst work for Scout.com Rivals and Fox Sports Southwest. So it was a great way of doing things. And I did that for many years and I stayed, with doing sports writing. I still do very little of it now. What got me into keynote speaking is coming into the time when I was writing about college football athletes, and then me always being a writer. In between that time, I was seeing a lot of success. And I remember buying this house at the age of 29. I was living the American dream. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should actually take a relationship serious. And I jumped into one and I thought it was going to be everything.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't. And a bad breakup, it took me to a downward spiral and I was depressed and all of these things. And I remember having a total meltdown. My family's worried about me. And I remember I was in my secondary bedroom And I was like, I don't even care about this thing called life because I don't know what I'm doing. And I
Yeah.
remember making a deal with God. Maybe one of your people out there know about making a deal with God. I said, look, man, what I'm doing is not working. I said, I'll tell you what, if you wake me up tomorrow, I'll do things your way and I'll figure some new things out. And that's when obviously he did. I started taking on personal and spiritual development, started reading the books, started reading the Bible more, reading, the hit books, Think and Grow Rich, Who Moved My Cheese, Inspired Destiny, all of those, great books. And then I was like, okay, I have a love for sports, but I have a new spiritual development. How do I merge the two? And that's where Awaken the Baller Within, my first book, came from. And so I created that book by interviewing all of these guys and figuring out the mindset of why they were so successful, not just the production. I wanted to know what was the fuel behind that. And so interviewing, close to 100 guys and did all of these studies, put it together for Awaken the Baller Within so I could teach others how to utilize your mind to have success on the field. The same thing Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich. I just did it with football players. And so I remember after my book came out, it was around 2011, and it was actually around the time when my father passed as well. And I'd hired a mentor and everything. And I was like, man, I got this book, how do you do it? And it's like, if you want to sell a book, you should speak. I'm like, oh, is that what you do? Okay, cool. So I ended up selling. My first sale was to a coach. He bought 80 copies of my book. And I said, Coach, you buy 80 copies and I'll come speak to your football team. And then that's where it started. I did that first talk and threw me a little blazer on and running around, screaming, didn't know what I was doing. And over time, and next thing you know, one school turned to two turns to four. And, years later, I'm speaking in Zambia and Africa and doing work all over the place. And so the speaking came after writing my first book. And now that, that's become a primary part of my life. And so that's how I went from being just a jock sports writer to being basically just a jock who speaks on stage now.
Do you feel that? Are you comfortable doing that? I mean, it seems like you really transitioned right into that role with the speaking, and was that a hard to do, or you just kind of took it right on, just jumped right in, feet first?
I kind of did, but it's interesting how it started. As I said, I had a mentor at the time, and he had put together kind of a spiritual prosperity group he had put together. And because he was my mentor, I was supporting him in it. And he had an affirmation and he had these points and everything was flowing. And one day I called him and I said, hey, man, this is what I think about your affirmation, how it hits my spirit. And he's like, man, that's very insightful. Why don't you share that when I open the experience next time? And I was like, okay, no big deal. So, I go home, put a little blazer on, and, he gives me the first 5 to 7 minutes. And I was like, hey, when you say this affirmation, here's what comes to mind. And this, and this, and, God spoke to me in this way and this and that. And so I was like, all right. And they was like, yeah, that was great. Once that session was over, they were going to him and to me saying, hey, when is that guy coming back to speak? And he's not. That was a one-off. I was just sharing my thoughts on that. And it was like, no, you really should speak every week. And so my first 8 months was speaking, opening up a spiritual experience with 3 points, almost like a primer. Like it was like a primer to the service. He had the sermon, but I would come up with like just 3 quick points. I get a scripture, 3 quick points. I speak for like 5 minutes and then I was done. But that was part of my segment. So I was speaking. My first speaking experience basically came in a church-like environment.
Wow. I
didn't know that was setting something up for something I didn't know at the time, but here we are.
Well, that's what God does. He'll set you up. You may not be ready for it, but he sets you up, As a mental performance coach, you've helped secure over $6 million in scholarships money for athletes, correct? Could you tell me more about your approach and strategies and empowering athletes to achieve their goals?
Well, now, and to be honest, that's maybe 2 different things, but not so much, because basically at that time I was helping young men by editing and working with their highlight videos and promoting them to college coaches to help them get the scholarships.
Okay.
At that time. At that time. I don't typically do that much of that work anymore, but I still do the mental performance coaches with young adults and young men. And that, we look at their job prospects. We expound on the idea of gratitude. That's a very foundational principle in what we do, right? We start off with the gratitude because we can't get more until we're grateful for what we do have.
Yes, right.
Because no more be added unto you if you're not grateful for where you are. But the $6 million was when I was getting young men college scholarships. Some of these scholarships at that time were $375,000, $250,000, and so over time, I'd worked with enough athletes where $6 million ended up being the number when I was doing that type of work. The mental performance coaching was going along with the college football recruiting service that I was doing.
Okay.
And now the mental performance coaching part of it is basically getting young men from that transition from high school to college and college to the real world. So we look through, their finances, we look through their mindset, we look through, what's your service looking like? What is your degree in? What are you not getting a degree in? Where do we want to go? How much do you want to make? Whom are you going to serve? And then we look at all of those different things and we break it down into 3 and 6 month segments to where we basically help them to catapult into the next level of adulthood, whichever stage they are in life.
That's important, because a lot of times coming out of high school or, and trying to get into college and navigating all those type of things, especially as an athlete, is difficult. You have a lot of people in your ear trying to tell you about different things that you really, you don't need to know about, or, so to have someone to mentor you and show you the right direction and just lead you on the correct path, that's very important. And I commend you for doing that. You have another book, right? I Am More Than Enough.
Yes, that was my second book.
Your second.
I'm More Than Enough.
Yes, I Am More Than Enough.
Yes, yes.
You want to tell me a little bit about that?
So that was I think you'll find, other than the last one I wrote that was earlier this year, all of my books were written out of tragedy. So there's usually a pretty somber story that goes with all of them. I Am More Than Enough came out of the issue that happened from Awaken the Baller Within, because I wrote Awaken the Baller Within and my author copies came in, and my plan was to take Awaken the Baller Within to go see my father that weekend. Well, my father died the night after my 33rd birthday, so he died on that Tuesday when I was supposed to go see him that Saturday. And I Am More Than Enough was written on the argument I had with God the night that he died, right? Because I was, the night of my birthday, I looked down at my phone. It was in another room. Anybody who's around long enough knows that sometimes you leave your phone in the other room. And then I came back to 5 voicemail messages, and it's my mother screaming, saying that your father's dying. And so I'm like, what? Like, there's no heads up. There's no nothing. It's just, this is happening. And so I remember getting in the car. I was engaged at the time. And at that time, I was part of a spiritual, I guess you could say a church, religious organization. And I was really into the manifestation, you just think it and it's going to happen. Right. I was reading the Bible, but I was like, oh, this over here is kind of cool too. So I can do both, kind of put both foot in the water. And of course, you find out really that can't work that way. The Bible is the only way, the truth, and the light.
That's right.
But sometimes God has to use those different things to bring you home, like a prodigal, which I've been about 7 times in my life, seems like. And so I'm on my way to the hospital, and at this time, because I'm believing in the thoughts or things, and I can just manifest what I wanted, I just had a quick prayer with God, and I was like, all right, God, I want my dad to walk out of here, and I know you got this. Don't worry about it, because I've already said it and I thought it, so you can go ahead and handle it for you. Appreciate what you're doing in advance. Thank you for that. And of course, I get there and it's just trail of tears in the hallways. It's somber. Everyone's looking around. My mom's stoic. My brother's in the corner. I don't know what he's thinking. And so I'm like, Mom, what's going on? Like, I'm here. What's going on? Like, it's your dad or whatever. And I'm just like, and I'm still at that point where I'm huddling my family up, and I'm like, look, we're not walking out of here until we know that our father's going to walk out of this hospital. He's going to do this. Can we believe that together? And of course, they all agreed or whatever. But something just didn't seem right. I remember going to see him while he was on that bed. And I didn't feel like my dad was looking back at me,
Mm.
even though I'm still spiritually arrogant at the time. But I'm like, this ain't looking too good.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a time when the doctor said, it's time. And so they was like, we can keep him on machines and keep him alive, or we can try something else. And I remember looking over at him and I couldn't hear what he was saying to me. But I knew my father, and my father, there's no way he'd want to be alive just simply on a machine.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not how my dad's a Vietnam veteran. He just didn't roll like that.
Right.
I said, ma'am, you turn that machine off and you let my father fight. And if it's God's will, then that's what it is. Mm-hmm. By the time God had already smacked me upside the head and was just like, I'm going to take it from here. And my dad fought for 4 more hours. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it was his time. And of course, at this point in time, I'm consoling all my people. And then I found a way to slip away so I can go outside and scream at God. I was like, God, what are you doing? Like, you said you'd never leave nor forsake me. You said that, I ask for things in your name, it's done. Like, mm-hmm. what just happened? Like, I don't feel like you're here. Right. I feel like you completely abandoned me. And I remember after I got all of that out, because, God will let you scream and, have your pity party and all that stuff. And then, when you're ready to sit down and listen, he's there. He never left. He just like, let you get down.
Right.
And he told me, son, I've never left you and I'm still here. And he said, you said you wanted your father to walk out of this room, and he is going to walk out of here, but as you. All the values, the integrity, mm-hmm. the work ethic, the love, the faith, I put all of that in him to give to you. Now, why don't you get your life together and go be the man your heavenly father and your chosen earthly father has called you to be? And wow. I'm More Than Enough was birthed out of that night.
Wow.
And it was focused on, because it's I'm More Than Enough, 3 ways to overcome the fear of your own reflection. I didn't think I was enough without my father to be able to guide me through this. Because I have 2 fathers, but that father was the one who kind of poured into me from a youth standpoint. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of my moral barometer, right? When you're kind of in that in between, it's like, should I do this or should I not do that? Well, I could always call on my dad. My dad was retired. So he would pick the phone up all the time. So anytime I was at middle of the road, he would guide me to the right direction. Well, that's gone now. I'm 33 years old. I'm mm-hmm. a grown man.
Yeah.
But my father was the one who was building that bridge to the next level of life. And I was like, I'm not enough to do this on my own. And God was like, what do you mean you're not enough? I created you. Mm-hmm. So I need you to get it together. Like, you've been given all you need. Between him and me, that is far more than enough. And so the book was written out of the idea of, how do you see yourself when you look in the mirror? What do you see? Do you see a winner? Do you see lack? Do you see overcoming? Mm-hmm. Do you see defeat? Do you see a loser, a bum, undeserving? All of those words are on the table. But it's like, if we read the word and say, create man in his likeness and image, we can't be garbage. We can't be trash. There's no way.
No way. That's right.
No way. If we're made in the image and likeness of the creator, there's no way we can be garbage. Right. None. However, the world, the enemy, whatever you want to call it, the whatever gets in your head and was just like, you can't be successful without your dad here. You can't launch a successful podcast. You'll never write a book. You'll never own a home, and you'll never be wealthy. Whatever the doubt is. And so I'm More Than Enough addresses all of those things and faces them head on and saying, no, not only are you more than enough, you are an overcomer. Because when you look in the mirror and see all that, you see the scars.
Yeah.
But are you not a better person? Are you not a more empowered man or woman from those scars? Did you not grow from that? Did you not use the examples all through the word where the struggle was part of the process? And I'm More Than Enough focuses a lot on that.
It's funny that you say that, because my mother passed away in 2020.
Oh.
And it was kind of similar to you, it's like what do you do now that, that person that you rely on and you believe in so much, what do you do when you want to pick up the phone and call them, but you don't realize that everything that your parents or what God put in them is now instilled in you, and it's for you to go on and carry on and live it and inspire and do the things that they deposited into you, and it took me quite some time to, it's 2023, but it took me quite some time to get to that. I still want to pick up the phone and I want to call my mom and ask her for advice on certain things, because my mom was the world to our family. She was the matriarch, and being that I'm the baby of the family, it makes it even, harder. But to not want to, you make those deals with God and you ask him, Lord, please, 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 but sometimes we're not ready to let go because we feel we're not strong enough or qualified enough. And God gives us everything that we need. He sees the plans. He knows the plans he has for us. So he knows the greatness in us. He knows what's in us already before we know it. We just have to step up to the plate, as I like to say. So I thank you for, for sharing that. It's, your story is really, really inspiring. And the fact that God has so much in your life and he shows you so many things, and people don't realize how important that is. um and again, I just want to thank you for that. But I wanted to also talk to you about your teen ministry. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it comes in two layers because I was obviously doing it at the church I was at before
Mm-hmm.
COVID. That's when I first got introduced to it.
Mm-hmm.
The church I was at before I'm at where I am now, I was there for 10 or 12 years.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
I remember, I remember, I remember what happened. Someone at the church asked me to do what's called podium, which basically you come up during the service and you just do the announcements. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Just go and do
Okay.
the announcements. And a woman heard that and was just like, "You sound like a dynamic speaker." And I was like, I do a little bit here and there, but not a lot. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, would you mind coming to speak at a Wednesday night service? And I'm just like, sure, of course. So I ended up doing the service. And what's interesting is the name of that of that sermon I did was called Good from the Start,
Mm.
which was the words of God spoken to me, which led to I am more than enough.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
because Good from the Start is the sermon she heard, and she said the youth and family minister assistant director was in the audience. She's like, I think you'd be good with our teens.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind putting together a 3-part series and teach it for 3 weeks in a row to our teens? Sure, why not? The title of that lesson was I am more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in 3 parts. And the 3 parts ended up being the chapters of the book. And so I did that for 3 weeks. What's interesting, I think we started off with about 25, 27 students week one. By week two, we had up to 35.
Wow.
By the third week, we were bringing in tables because we had over 40. And I
These
remember
are teens. These are teens.
teens,
Wow.
basically middle school through high school. It's in the
Mm.
room is there's a triangle. There's like a whole. I'm bracketed inside of like 8-foot tables
Mm-hmm.
with teens circled all around it.
Wow.
And I remember some parents coming up to me and they was just like, "Oh, you're him." I'm like, "Who?" "You're the guy who has my kid wanting to come to church."
Wow.
Oh, okay. So I ended up completing the 3 part, and then that same director who booked me, she said, "I think you would be great for our teens. Would you mind volunteering?" Sure, why not? Let's see what happens. So I'm doing it, and I'm going through it, and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm just kind of, talking to him here and there. And then an older gentleman, I think he was in his 60s, he came along and he saw something in me, which I've heard over time. It was just like, here's a man who just has a heart for doing what he's doing, and he's willing.
Yeah.
And and you learn over time that God uses the willing, not necessarily the qualified, the willing.
Yes.
Right? And so he taught me the game. He taught me, hey, this is what you do in ministry. This is how you do this, how you do that. And we built that ministry. Like, we were getting like 40% growth in that ministry. Like, we had 40 to 50% of the entire youth and family ministry in our 2 teenager groups. And we were doing the rallies, we were doing road trips, we were doing all sorts of things. We were going out, we were doing it. And then COVID happened. And a lot of things happened at the church that did not sit well with me. Mainly that my values were questioned. And that was a no-go. I'm not compromising my values even for a church.
Right.
Whatsoever. Because the values you're asking me to compromise go against the very word we're teaching in this place.
Right.
So I got out of there, ended up finding me. I ran into a woman who used to cycle with me back in the day. And I saw her at the grocery store, and she's like, our church is open. I was just like, there's no churches open. She's like, we are. We opened back up. And we said, until someone comes in and literally comes in with the national, comes in and stops us, we're going to be open. And I remember I was like, and the crazy thing is that church has been across the street from my gym for all 5 years I was there.
Wow.
I passed by it every week, twice a week. And I ended up going in there, and I remember, no, September 31st, because October 5th is when I got an email from them. And I was sitting there, and it was just like, whoa, these people actually teach the word, and they're unapologetic. I think I can fit in here. Because it sounds like a lot of, you're not supposed to say that, is being said, and I'm here for it because somebody has to say it, because the truth sometimes doesn't come out always so PC.
Right.
And I ended up joining a teen ministry there, and one thing led to another and led to another, and I ended up getting in really good with the group. I started working with the youth pastor there, helped him put together some curriculum that I did. And then one day out of nowhere, he said, hey, this is some good material here, and you know it better than I do. Do you want to teach it? And I'm like, I've been here like 4 months. Are you sure? And so I'm walking into this room, and I know like 2 people out of like 15. And I delivered the message. I delivered the questions. And the room transformed in front of my eyes because it hit home to everybody, the question I was asking. That pivotal moment in life when you feel like life is just not working in your favor, and it's the worst case scenario. What did you do, and whom did you become through God's grace? Since that day, I've taught almost 100 classes.
Wow.
At that location.
Wow.
And I sit back, and I'm just like, God, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Not in a bad way, but it's like, you chose me. Right? The chain smoking, partying alcoholic from college who took 6.5 years to get out of school, who has a count of missteps that I've lost track of. And you want me to help lead the next generation. Yeah. And I pinch myself at times because, like, I just completed my 3rd year at this church working with youth ministry. And I'm known as a guy who really comes in and serves pretty regularly. And man, I love those teens over there. And they know that. And you can just tell we've seen some lives transform there. And it's, the 7th graders are coming in and the 12th graders are going out. And it's just like, I thank God for showing me where my purpose and calling is. And he hasn't let up in showing me in reaffirming the ministry I'm called to do. And it's with young people. Because I realized even with my business, because obviously I was a sports writer. So that's what youth, technically teenagers through young adults. And I started noticing that through every part of my career, whether it's schools, colleges, nonprofits, sports teams, some companies, mainly small businesses, I'm like, what is the common denominator? 17 through 28 years.
I was gonna say teens. That's
17 through basically early adulthood.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you've blessed me in business and in ministry. Now it's time to make sure that all of it becomes one. Because I tried to do the separate thing where it's like, okay, because that's what you're taught as a speaker. Keep that Wednesday and Sunday stuff over there and Monday through Fridays over here. This is business. This is your beliefs. And Sheila, I got to be honest, I somewhere along the way, I was like, wait a minute. The same Ahmard Vital is showing up all these places. And again, like I always say, I'm not coming out and I'm not busting out the Thompson's Bible and saying, hold on, now let me tell you, in 1 Corinthians, I'm not doing that. But at the same time, it's like a God-fearing man is walking in the room. And you're going to know that, even if I don't say it, right? I'm going to walk in with that spirit. And if somebody opens the door and allows me to talk about my Lord and Savior, I'm taking it.
Yes.
I'm taking it.
Right.
Whereas before I'd be like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Now it's like, oh, no. We're here. And when you say something like, hey, can I be honest? Hey, teacher, coach, some person who booked me. Hey, can we go? Okay, good. We're going there. Right. I've recently got done with keynotes and I said, Coach, find me your guy.
Yeah.
What do? We went in the office and we prayed.
Wow.
10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, put these notebooks aside. My man is hurting over here. And he's not looking for a strategy. He's looking for somebody to go and agree to our Father together.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be that. And that's the difference of where I am now. And I'm growing into that because it's kind of new. But at the same time, it's like, all right, God, like, what do you want me to do with all this marketing material I have that I don't know? I spent 7 years on. Is it just what start over? And yeah, that's where I'm going to have to go. Start over. But it's worth it. And I don't know how it's all going to come together. But I know that as long as I follow his voice and I continue on his path, we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. He'll lead you the right way. You don't know how it's going to come together, but he knows how it ends. So he's going to lead you in the right direction, right?
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Ahmard, you are a motivational speaker, a consultant, an inspirational guidance. You wear so many hats, and you are an inspiration. To see someone like you go through what you've been through and to come out of it to help others, and mainly our youth. That's so important. What can we look forward to in the future from you? What projects do you have going on, or what's happening going forward?
Well, from a business standpoint, we our goal is to hit 15 schools this next year. At least 15 schools to get out there, colleges, working with some nonprofits down this way in Texas. We got a ministry going. We have a ministry and a business going on down in West Texas, and we're doing some other works across. We did some ministry work down in Missouri. Really and truly, it's repackaging my keynotes and my messages to focus more on core values, building, gratitude. Because the 3 words I live my life by are service, gratitude, and impact. And I want to build my business around those three things.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the keynotes have represented that as of recently, we do got to get the marketing and everything back up to speed with that. And I'm basically allowing God to move in and through me unto the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I was not doing it before, but now I'm intentional, if that makes sense. Like I've never hid the fact of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I've recently become more emboldened because I've seen what God can do through the youth now. I'm very encouraged by this next generation, extremely encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know people want to just throw them away like, oh, it's a lost generation. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. In fact, they're more closer to the chosen generation than a lost generation. There's some youngsters on fire on these college campuses. Of course, all you see is the crazy people, trying to break down doors and firebombing stuff and here and there. But on the other side over there, there's people baptizing in those rivers, in those creeks on campus, right? There's revivals going on campus right now. There's people giving their life to Christ on college campuses right now. And at high school, see you at the pole, all these different missions going on. And so my initial goal is to empower and mentor 100 young men. 100. I'm talking about direct, not in a big audience and there's a whole bunch of them out there. I'm talking about me one-on-one with 100 young men. And of that 100, I'm going to encourage them to go do the same. To go each one of those to go find 100, right? And then because of the training to that one is going to continue. Because see, we keep thinking that we need this like big, massive movement to happen to change the game. We don't. We need 12 to 15, upwards of 20%, just the tipping point. And then we watch God work from there. Because does it not say, it tells us to go out and disciple, to evangelize, the Great Commission. Go out and do that work. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll try your way. We're going to do this. And so you'll see me in a number of schools. You'll see me in a lot of athletic departments. You'll see me in a lot of nonprofits. You'll see me. I know I'm doing some stuff with Harris County here in the near future, but there's a lot of things in the works, and there's a lot of people who have seen the work I'm doing, and apparently there's not a lot of young people, not a lot of people who are willing to work with the youth, especially with young men. I did not know that. I mean, I guess that's a good thing to not know, but at the same time, I didn't realize the work I'm doing is that rare.
Yeah. And important.
But
important.
It is. And I unapologetically focus a lot of my energy and my ministry on young men. That's where I am, because I am still a young man at heart. And I want to prepare them in a way. And you're talking about a guy who had two fathers, great coaches, mentors all around him. But the enemy's on attack, like full attack, like reloaded attack. And so we got to come with more. We can't use the same tactics. We really have to double down and working on them, because the young men are the builders. They're the leaders. Yeah. They're heads of households. That is what they are called to be, to provide and protect out here. And so I want them to be I want their faith to be in the right place. I want their finances to be in the right place. I want their fitness to be in the right place. I want their family to be in the right place. I want their mindset to be in the right place. I want all of that to come together so that we can have young men who are building, families that are thriving, right? Households, to where we have great education system in place, to where, the kids are being reared in a home where there's godly parents, right? With the man leading this thing to move along until we can buck this trend that's going on. That's not been beneficial for anyone involved, man, woman, child, none of this. None of these things that we use going all the way back to the early 60s and even to the 40s. This new way of doing life and family is not working at all. At all. And it's not my opinion. Go look at the numbers. Go look at the crime rates. Go look at teen pregnancy. Go look at drug use. Go look at suicidation. Go look at the school dropouts, right? The deaths by cop, by suicide, by whatever. It is not working. And so if I can just get to 1 and then get to 2 and then get to 4, and then we just keep doing this thing until we have an army of young men who stand up for the righteousness and the word of God and go out and do what is needed to be able to functionally operate in this society and create some more winners, because I love winners.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I believe you're going to do that. I have faith in you. I know you're going to do it. Because you're passionate. When you're passionate about something and God puts it in your spirit, it's going to get done. So I'm looking forward to hearing that it's done. I have one thing I want to ask, and I ask all my guests this: what are you grateful for?
My faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing that has saved me when I didn't know I needed saving. When I'm doing everything that doesn't work, there's that moment. And when you're in the pits, in the depths, and you're I always say you walk into the valley of the shadow of death and you don't even have a flashlight, no rod, no staff, not even a match. And the still small voice is still there for you when you're in that valley. And when you're stuck with no answers. And you say, you know what? Maybe there's a better way. And the Father comes running to you. Prodigal son. My son is lost, now he's found. Clean him up. Because remember, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. I don't. But faith kept me just enough to be able to stand here, sit on a podcast like this, right? And look across at someone amazing who was just like, I want to hear from him and I want to hear from his story. This isn't me. None of this is me. You look around and all the blessings, and you're like, I didn't do any of this. I was just willing and open to hearing what my Father had to say. And sometimes I obeyed, because obviously I didn't all the time. But when I did obey, he loved me. He put a robe on me. He cleaned me up. And he celebrated because I came home. And that's really all I got. That's really all I got, because I sometimes don't even know how I'm still here. But the good Lord made fit for me to still be here, 45 years strong. And here we are.
You got work. You got more work to do. You got more work to do. Let my listeners know how they can reach out to you, get your books. You have a website?
I do. It's ahmardvital.com. It's my name. And my same name will lead you to my Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Everything is Ahmard Vital. There's no alias. I mean, my business is called something else, but if you want to find me at Ahmard Vital, all of my books, all of my programs, all of the things, all of the services I offer, just reach out to me. It's info@ahmardvital.com, or you can go to my website and reach out to me there on social media, any of those things. I love to hear from those people. I love to hear from your audience who maybe as a youngster who's having a season, and maybe that season has gone on a little too long, and you're concerned that you're hoping they get out of this. And Sheila, I can't tell you how many times I've been pulled aside and was just like, I just don't know what's wrong with my youngster. I don't know what's going on with them. Would you mind? Would I mind? Thank you. I'm called for this. The good Lord told me this is what he wants me. This is what he called me to do. So people can reach out to me there. And if there's someone who's going through that, just reach out to me. Email, text, DM message. I'd love to hear from them, and I'd love to see if we can sit down and have a call and maybe just give him or her the first step. Maybe not the whole blueprint, but just the first step to get them out of that valley for that moment. And so, yes, I hope to hear from some of your audience, but that is how they can find me at all of those different platforms. And I'm more than available. So please let me know.
Definitely. Ahmard, I thank you so much for being a guest today, and I appreciate you. I thank you for taking the time and continue to do God's work and let him lead you, and you do great things. You're going to continue to do great things. And I know you're going to hit those 100 men, young men, probably more, definitely more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm blessed to be here with you, Sheila, and I thank you for having me on.
Join me next time where I will continue to discuss more of today's issues. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Blessings to you.